Welcome everybody to the RIP 28 podcast, where we talk about real shit, bullshit, and all the shit that's in between. I'm your host, TV, and I'm going to introduce your distinguished panel. Start with Sly.
Hello, good people out there. It is Sly the sports guy. We'll talk a little bit with my friends.
All right, the next person I got up is going to be Anton.
Hey, what's up, everybody out there in the world? This is Coach Anton Bennett. I'm here just talking with my guys, man, trying to get the real word out on the street.
All right, next we got Chance.
See money up in here, just trying to make it happen. We're doing, we just trying to talk, man. Have a good time on fellas.
All right, last but not least, to pepper to your steak, we got the Salt Man.
What's happening? It's your man Mike, a.k.a. Salt. Remember, Black Lives Matter. Faith without works is dead. Let's get it.
Salt dog.
All right, everybody. So this week's topic is going to be controversial. It's going to be fun. I'm going to encourage all our panelists to take off the gloves. Low blows are acceptable in this battle of ideas. We're going to talk about cohabitation. All right, and cohabitation. Many people are against cohabitation because why buy the cow if you can have the milk for free? A lot of times this is based on some religious beliefs, or maybe your parents have always gave you these messages, but whatever the case may be, people have not been feeling cohabitation. So my question to my panelists are going to be, what are your thoughts on cohabitation? Is it something that's positive? Is it something that's negative? And so the first person I'm going to bring to the table is going to be Tom.
Well, hey, the way I look at cohabitation is it's a double-edged sword, pretty much. Some people like it, some people don't. Me personally, I'm good with cohabitation. I want to know if you brush your teeth in the morning or not. I want to know if you what way you wash your body every night, before I move in with you. So we got to get that living situations right before we can see if we thing go any further. And then you got to look at it too with cohabitation for the people who don't like it. It is a religion thing. You can't. What the old folks say? What you doing? Shacking up. That's what cohabitation is in the old folk language. You're shacking up. You can't stay with that guy. You can't stay with that woman if you're not married. You know what I'm saying? You can't have no toothbrush over there, no shoes left. If you in the olden times, but in my time right now, I just want to make sure I know who the person is I'm about to go cohabitate with. That's my piece.
All right, Sly. Anything you want to add, Sylvester?
Well, boom, you can look at my name and see where I stay. Where I stay with cohabitation. I'm a big believer in it. I want to know exactly what I'm getting into, how I'm getting into it, and everything. Like Tom say, man, when you dating, you in that dating stage, and y'all just kicking and chilling, she gonna look good and she gonna do everything right, but you only seeing her for a short period of time. I want to know how everything works before I can make that step into marriage. I need to know if you pay your bills on time. I need to know, Tom said, if you brush your teeth every morning. I need to know all that stuff before I talk about getting married to you.
All right, Chance, you want to chime in on the subject?
Yeah, well, I got some experience in this because I live with my wife before we got married, and it was like you just see, can you get along with each other, seeing each other at night, waking up in the morning, everybody don't look the same in the morning as they do during the day. So I mean, if you was expecting your girl to look like maybe it's Maybelline 24 hours a day, you're in for a surprise. But I think it worked out great. I mean, I've been married 16 years now. Where we live together, we learned about each other and we kind of grew together. I got married kind of at a younger age than probably most, but I think we grew up together, and that was part of the process, that living together first before we even got married. So I think it's a good thing.
Last up, Salt Man, what you got?
So I'll play a little devil's advocate. So for me personally, my wife, she's my college sweetheart. So we were, living in dorms and stuff together, but yet I still had my own space to go to. But, we were around each other all the time. Um, and we've been together, maybe 2-3 years before we actually got married. So um, I was around her enough throughout the years to kind of know what to expect. So by the time we did actually get married and moved in together, it was just, same old basically. But if you're talking about, maybe people dating maybe for a few months and they say, "Oh, got a great idea, let's maybe move in together," then yeah, I can see how that cohabitation would be beneficial because, you don't know that person well enough. So I think it's probably a matter of, how long you known that person to really know, um, if it is something, maybe y'all need to kind of test the waters and kind of live together just to see if it's going to work. But like I said, for me personally, I kind of did that dating thing for a number of years. So over time, I kind of knew how my wife was going to look, when she woke up, so I kind of got to see those habits over time. But, different strokes for different folks. That's what I always say.
All right, wonderful, man. I wanted to toss the question to Sly and to Tom about their personal experiences, if any, with cohabitation.
I can start off. I've been married going on 15 years in August, and go ahead. You ain't got no round of applause thing in here nowhere. But anyway, I've been married 15 years. We started off staying together, but we dated through college. We dated through college. She would come home, when she was from Florida, she'd come home. We didn't stay together then, but we just dated. But once she finally moved back to Columbia, we stayed together, man, and I was able to see, and she was able to see what my good things and bad things were, because I'm not perfect, and she's not perfect. So being able to see that before you sign your name on that legal document, it just makes a lot more sense to me. Like I say, what the old folks say, shacking up. A lot of people that I see shacked up or didn't shack up, they didn't make it to the 15 mark. So that's how I look at it.
All right, come on, Sly. Come on, Sly. You only paying half the rent. Let's hear it.
Hey, me myself, I can say I'm divorced now, but I actually shacked up, as they can say, twice with my previous girlfriend, college sweetheart, and my ex-wife. Both situations, I think, with my college girlfriend, it taught me a lot about living with a woman. What should I expect? Bad habits that I had that I needed to change. A lot of that stuff, and led up to my marriage. To me dating my ex-wife. When we moved in together, I had a whole lot better understanding of how women work and what should I do in a relationship. What part should I take care of to make the cohabitation work? And I just think it's so important. Even though I joke with only paying half and pay the half the rent, once you become married, those bills and those finances are something serious. And if you don't have a good working relationship, if you don't know how your wife likes to pay bills or how you like to pay bills, and y'all just walk into this thing brand new, man, that's going to be a culture shock for your ass. So yeah, man, I'm 100% behind living together, 100%.
All right, so just to kind of give some personal context and then some references for you guys to kind of look into. I too have had the opportunity to cohabitate, except for on a short-term basis, not relative to the years of marriage that a lot of my contemporaries have. One of the things I can definitely attest to that cohabitation brings forth to the forefront is a lot of your shared values and ideas that sometimes you don't necessarily articulate during the dating process. So for example, if cleanliness was on a spectrum from 1 to 10, and you are an 8, but your partner is a 5. That is a huge pronounced difference that's going to make or break your relationship. And when it comes time for conflict resolution, when you have the opportunity to retreat to neutral corners, or when it comes to sharing resources, when you have to decide how to allocate what's going on in your household, then it's very easy to do when you're maintaining separate households because you don't have to be accountable to anybody. But that whole cohabitation piece brings in that whole higher level of accountability that you get an opportunity to kind of explore and see what works prior to signing anything that's going to be final. Because once you cross that marriage threshold, then sometimes you lose the ability to be civil after the animosity sets in. All right. So with that said, some of the leading sociologists that have research on this is going to be Dan Carlson and Stephanie Coontz, who's author of the way we never were, talking about how some of our different ideas vary in terms of how we think about it versus how they actually play it out in society. One of the things I want to talk about is the roles when it comes to cohabitation. Do you feel like the roles are similar? You know, the man should do this, the woman should do that. Is it more equal because there are less binds? Sly already said that somebody's got to pay half, which may not fly well with some of our audience members. So just tell me, what do you think about different roles and how that plays out in cohabitation?
I think it all depends, man. You know, some people cohabitate or whatever at a really young age, and that makes a difference. For when you're 35, 40 years old, you're kind of established in what you've been doing by yourself for years and years. And, you know, doing it at a younger age, you kind of grow up together kind of thing. When you're older, it's like you got your set ways. You might have 2 kids, they might have 2 kids, and you got to learn how to deal with that. So it's different for everybody, and it's different, I think, in the age groups as well.
So I got a question, if I can, to the panel. So what's the difference, or why do you guys think that, you know, people make that decision to cohabitate, you know, maybe after a short period of time versus kind of doing the dating thing, you know, being around each other for so much time before you actually get married? Why do you think so many people do try to do that cohabitation thing before, you know, just doing the process of dating and then getting married?
I got this right here. I think a lot of the reason is you have a lot of homosexuals out there. And what I mean by homosexuals is somebody who don't have a place to stay or can't afford to stay by themselves. So they go and try to jump into a relationship real quick and try to move on with somebody, you know, so they can have somebody to take care of them. And I think that's a big red flag to me. You know, true enough, I believe that you should stay with somebody before you get married. But my thing is, you shouldn't move in with somebody until you're at that point where you think you're going to get married sometime soon, where you're thinking about proposing. Now, if you moving in with somebody and you don't have any plans on marrying that person, to me, you just a homosexual. You're trying to cut down on your bills a little bit.
Good point. Good point.
I agree with that, Sly. Good summary.
Sly, can you spell that? Make sure I'm hearing it right.
HOBO.
Okay, cool. I'm good.
Homosexual.
You know, I think Bob brings up a very interesting point. I'm going to tell you right now, my black ass ain't ever moving in with a woman, right? If I cohabitate, they going to move in with me or my name going to be on the documentation, right? So with that said, do you think one person moving in with the other person has an effect on the experience of cohabitation? And do you have any personal experience of that?
Well, hey, I can answer this one. Like I say, me and my wife been together a long time. Well, when she first moved up here, I was staying in an apartment with some of my homeboys. I wasn't even paying rent. I was just on their couch pretty much. She moved up here and she had got a place, and we cohabitated. And guess what? We are 15 years down, but the thing was though, honestly, when I moved in, I had a goal. I had a plan. No, I'm not saying we. And I'm saying I. We had a plan. We had a plan. She put it out in front of me and say, "Hey, this is what we got. If you ain't with it, you ain't with it." And we went from there. And not the half of the paying the rent. I paid some bills. She paid some bills. But now I don't even see what my check do now. You know, I I don't even know what my check go.
So Todd, you started as a hobosexual then.
Oh, hey, well, you take the gloves off. Well, you know, sometimes sometimes you strike good.
But did you ever find yourself in a position where you were like, "Yo, I really don't like what's going on here, but I can't say shit because I'm be homeless"?
Yeah.
No, I can say I honestly never been in that part. Never been there because I always knew I had my mom in them house I can go back to.
right.
Always, you know.
You ain't saying that just because your wife might hear this shit, right?
Nah, it's for real. That's real. That's real spill. And she knows that too. She know that we said we got a plan and we gonna make this work. And if it don't work, you know, we go our separate ways. But here we go, 15 years in.
What about anybody else? Do you feel like who moves in with who affects the power dynamic and the quality of the relationship? I really want to hear from Slack. I feel like he got a whole bunch to say, but I want to hear from Francis Salt too.
Oh, I was giving everybody a chance to talk, man. It definitely affects the power dynamic of a relationship. Definitely. And it's no way about it. Because I look at things when I was in college, my college girlfriend, I moved in with her. I moved in to her. Gina moved into my apartment. It was my apartment. She moved in, and every time, because I was young, I ain't gonna lie to you, I was young. Every time she said something I ain't like, I was like, "Hey, they go to the door right there. You can take them," because I had that comfort of knowing it was my place. All right. When I first met my ex-wife, I first moved in to her place. I moved into her place when I met her, when I, we started living together, because I was in the process of buying a house and I moved into her place. And I ain't like her rules. I'm be real with you. I ain't like her rules. I ain't like it at all, And so I was like, "Fuck this. I'm gone." I left. But I had that comfort of knowing that my house was, I was about to, finish buying my house. And so I brought my house. And then once I brought my house, she moved in. Lo and behold, fast forward through the marriage, she ended up getting the house. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story about divorce. We'll talk about that one later. But yeah, I think that power dynamic does exist, man. I take that back. That power dynamic exists when you have somebody who wants to enforce it. When you have somebody who wants to be an alpha and say, this is my stuff. And that's usually not a healthy relationship. If you got somebody who uses that that power, uses this power of owning the house, it's usually not a healthy relationship. Yeah. Hello.
All right, yeah, Tom, go.
So when you say the power dynamic is different when you move in with somebody, but what if your income is more than the person you're moving in with?
Ooh.
So how does that make the power dynamic different? The name is on the lease, but who's paying all the bills for the lease?
I think money always talk. I think money talk.
What do you think, Francis Salt?
I don't know about that because again, a lot of people have pride, and if their name on the list, out of the heat of the moment, they'd be like, I need you to leave, and shoot, they'll think about it later on or pick somebody else up, another homosexual, and come in to pay the half of the rent. So I don't know about that, about the income being the most important. I think that the person's place who they're moving into, you know, that does hold a lot of power, weight, like the guys are saying. But I don't know if that money part is trumps, you know, the person that has a name on the lease.
Yeah. I
I'm
think
not.
it's all communication, man. You know, if you don't have good communication, then you know that's relationship's not gonna work anyway. So I mean, either way, who owns the property that you're staying in or renting the property or whatever, I mean, it's if you got good communication, you can get through any situation. You don't. It doesn't necessarily have to be, all right, this is my crib. You can get out if you don't want to do what I say, or the other way around. Y'all got to have that conversation before you move in, because it's not gonna be nothing but drama if you don't.
I will say this though, you know, before I got married to my wife, when she got out of school, you know, we already had made plans to get married. So when she got out, I basically got an apartment for us, you know, to kind of set her up. Um, but we kind of went out together, and at that point, we were in a serious relationship. So we kind of knew marriage was down the road for us. So we basically went out apartment searching together. You know, so it was kind of a mutual common ground. Nobody really had that power that, oh, this is my place versus the other. So I would think, you know, if two people are serious about actually, you know, getting a place or you know, getting married or whatever, then maybe kind of split down the middle, find a place neutral, you know, so you won't, one person won't have that power over the next. You know, just something to think about.
All right. So I want to kind of ask you guys kind of a two-part question. All right. And so the first part of the question is, based on your cohabitation experiences, then is there something that you learned about your partner that you would not have learned otherwise? Or, you know, maybe after you guys got married, maybe you learned something about your partner that you wish you had known before you got married. And then the second part of that is, did your role change? Did you initially go into your living arrangement thinking that you would do certain things, but then as time went on, that evolved into something different?
Yeah, I'll start off on that. You know, I I lived in a dorm for my whole time in college, pretty much. So it was like, you know, you didn't have to really worry about washing dishes. I mean, you had to do laundry and stuff like that a little bit, but I guess me growing up, you know, my mom did a lot of that stuff for me, you know, growing up and figuring out, you know, once we got together that it ain't just her job 100% to clean up behind me or do all the things that need to be done at the house. You know, it's a teamwork thing. And at first, you know, I was like, well, you know, my mama did this for me. Why you can't do this for me? You know, and it was like, I ain't your mama. You know, so I mean, it took a while to learn that, but I mean, after a while, you know, I started to figure out, man, this is a real team, and if you're gonna be part of the team, you got to pull your weight too. That was something that had to be learned, and like I say, I'm glad I started at an early age because you know by now I kind of got it down pat a little bit. I think so anyway. She might say a little different, but I think I'm doing better anyway.
Well, hey, I can piggyback off that. Like I said, when we first started cohabitating, I was real young in my mindset. A lot of things that I've grown from since then, you know, I gotta contribute that. I know she probably be listening to this, and y'all probably saying I'm saying this because she gonna listen. But you know how they say women they try to get to a guy and change him. You know, she came in and molded me to the person she wanted me to be in that cohabitation and through our marriage. And you know, I can only say that I praise that she did that for me, or helped me out going through. Because like I said, I was young and my thinking and everything back then. I thought I was just would be just a I don't know what you guys careers are right now, but I thought I'd just be a warehouse worker going through my life. She said, you better than that. You know what I mean? You can do more than what you're doing. And that made me go back to school, got my degree and everything. And that just, you know, she changed me on the way I thought about myself. So, you know, I can't say I ain't do my own laundry, but you know, I still do my own laundry. My mom ain't there, chance. So, but I do. You know, she does take care of my laundry every now and then. But then she get mad at me every now and then and say, "You ain't touch laundry in a year." I said, "Well, I do it for this weekend." But, but you know what I'm saying. So, like I say, just knowing the person that you got and that you can live with, and that they can change you over for the good. Now, you know, sometimes they try to change you, and it ain't gonna fit. It's like a got doggone square peg going to the circle. It ain't gonna fit, and you're not gonna work out. But you know, I was able to, you know, better myself in a lot of situations. All right.
Yeah, so I'll chime in on that one. So my story is a little similar to Chance, you know, starting in from college, and then into marriage. But I mean, even from the beginning up until now, um, I would say a lot has changed. You know, starting out, you know, we kind of said, okay, I'll be responsible for this, you be responsible for that. But over the years, you know, sometimes things shift. You know, one might get a little lazy than the other, and you got to kind of bring it all back, talk about it again. To Chance's point before, you know, communication is key. You know, sometimes you gotta, you know, huddle back together when things kind of get out of place, out of whack. The household isn't flowing how it should. Um, so yeah, it's, I think whether you're dating, cohabitating, or even married to that stage, you know, it's always going to be a ever changing type of learning process. So, but yeah, just keep communication first, man. That's my big thing to piggyback on.
What about you, Sly?
I'm divorced, so I guess all that stuff y'all talking about, I missed out on. Y'all should have told me all that stuff earlier. Yeah, no, hell. Nah.
All right, so that sounds good, man. So, you know, I think we talked about some of the lessons that you learned from cohabitation. I think we're kind of pretty much in agreement that, you know, if you had the opportunity to do it again, that you probably would. Now, let's try to place ourselves in the point of view of maybe the people that we may have been with, right? What do you think they learned about you via cohabitating with you? And basically, this becomes a mirror by which that we're looking at ourselves to see our areas and opportunities for growth.
Well, I think with me, I think one thing I can speak of. I know my ex-wife. She's told me, you
How
know,
old were you, Sly?
huh?
How old were you?
I when we moved in, I was 20, 29. I was 29,
Okay.
29 when we first moved in. But I mean, one thing, you know, kind of similar to what Anton said, I was lazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was lazy when it came to a lot
Was
of the household chores and stuff like that. You know, I came from, you know, being on my own for so long. You know, I just knew to keep the living room and my bedroom clean. Everything else, you know, I just pushed all the trash in another room. You know what I'm saying? So whenever company came over, those two spots was clean. So, but one thing I did learn, I was lazy. I was lazy, and so you know, I think
Sly, you say that in past tense. You sure about that?
yeah, I'm sure I'm a little bit better now. I'm a little
Okay.
bit better now.
That's progress, right?
That's progress. It's progress.
Good point, man. You know, like I said before, you know, I didn't know nothing about all that cleaning up and doing chores and all that stuff. I mean, now when I got older kids, you know, I try to instill that into them as well. So it's kind of split up, you know, 5 different ways because I got 5 people in the house. So everybody do a little piece, you know. It ain't as hard to do. But yeah, at first it was a struggle, you know, just to do the things that need to be done around the house. Because I mean, it's not like when we got together, I was a billionaire and she was just living off of me or anything. Both of us were working, or she was when we first got together, she was still in school and I was working. But you got to kind of take that into consideration that you got a full day of work, I got a full day of work too. We need to hit this together. And at first, I didn't look at it that way, but now I got a better understanding that everybody got to pull their own weight around the house. Even though if you make more money than somebody else, it's not like that. You got to be a team.
I say for me, I think one of the things with my wife, and she had to learn with me is, or her pet peeve about me is that I guess maybe I push things to a later time, you know, compared to when she thinks it should be done. So like the dishes, the dish has been sitting there maybe after dinner, it's my turn to do it. She's kind of the person that let's get it done, get it out the way. But I'll be like, okay, I'll get to it later. So I think one of the biggest things for me was kind of, I guess, prioritizing, getting certain things done that I'm responsible for to maintain um, around the house. But also, too, I would say also, depending on where you're staying, like an apartment versus a house. With an apartment, a lot smaller space, less work, I would think. But then when you get to the level of a house, then it's a lot more cleaning, a lot more maintenance. So I had to learn to kind of condition myself to be able to maintenance and take care of things on a more frequent basis.
You got to
Yep.
cut that grass.
What's that?
You ain't got to cut that grass at the house.
Yeah, man, that grass from apartment to a house, front and backyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Hey,
Yep.
well, I can say one thing that I think my wife had to learn about me the most was that I'm a cancer. I'm an emotional person. If I need to get my alone time, I just need my alone time. I'm just going to shut out, and she just understands that sometimes. And another thing that we learned going through is I can piggyback off Salt and say that you know I don't do stuff at the right time. She think I'm supposed to do it, but it gets done. You know what I mean? Like right now, I'm supposed to be calling my godmother, telling her she got something at the house waiting on her. I was supposed to call her this morning. I still forgot about it. When I get home today, she gonna say, "Did you call your godmother?" And let me do it now because it'd be the ninth time she had told me to do it. But if it's important, I say that's important to me. But it's more important to her what I'm doing. Then another thing is like stuff, and I can say we just talked about this other night, me and my wife. I probably told her no 3 times out of all the years that we've been living together. Told her no 3 times. But when I do say no to her about something, it's really she takes it. Oh, so you're serious about this? When I stand my ground on something, she takes it as okay. He never says no any other time, so he must be really serious about it. So that's some of the things that she learned about me.
We do.
All right, cool. So I'm going to ask the panel 2 questions. I think we're going to close out on this edition of the RIP 28 podcast. And so the first question that I want to ask is because most people on the panel are in agreement that cohabitation was a good thing. Do you guys have any negative experiences that you guys would like to talk about in terms of cohabitation? And then the second thing, and probably the most important thing, is do you think that cohabitating changes the stakes of the relationship? Because some people feel like due to you living together prior to officially sanctioning your marriage, then that somehow reduces the bond, that reduces the commitment level, because you know that you have an out, because you know that if I disagree with you tomorrow, then I don't have to sit around and work it out, because since we're only cohabitating and we don't have that marital bond, then we can not take this quite as seriously. So, question to the panel.
I think one thing, when you talk about negative experience, I look back to when I was in school. I was dating, my college sweetheart. We were living together, and the lights went off one day, and we couldn't figure out why the lights was off.
It was your fault.
Ain't nobody paid the bill. Ain't nobody paid the bill. I mean, it was just. And the sad thing was, I mean, we both had money. At the time, we both had money in our pocket. But, no communication. We were both, kind of fresh out the dorm rooms or whatever. Well, we actually stayed someplace. We actually each of us had an apartment before that. But we each, we never talked to anybody. We never talked about, you're going to pay this bill, you're going to pay that bill, you're going to pay that bill. So I assumed she was paying the light bill. She assumed I was paying, and we were sitting in the dark.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Well, I've only lived with one woman my whole life, so I don't really have I don't have any experience on, multiple people living with. But I would say, I guess a negative thing about cohabitation could be that you can get too comfortable and you can end up living with somebody for 20 years and never get married. I got a couple people that I know have done that before or are still doing it right now, where, it's just to the point of like, no need to get married now. We've been living together for 15 years. So, I mean, we're comfortable in where we are. So that could be a thing.
They might be happy though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I mean, I think that that can happen. So, I mean, you got to have some type of plan and saying, hey, we need to get married in X amount of years or something like that if we're going to be living together and have kids. If somebody died, get sick, the family get that life insurance, not the girlfriend that live with you. I mean, you got to have some stuff in writing,
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that, Chad. And one thing. Okay, go ahead.
I agree with that. People always say that, what happened if you up and die? Well, if the person responsible enough and they have a will, if you got a will written, or if you take out life insurance and you write your name on the life insurance, you write whoever's supposed to be the beneficiary on the life insurance, you won't run into that problem. You run into that problem if, you know what I'm saying, if you don't, you don't take care of the paperwork.
Sly, let me ask you this though, Sly. If you go through all the trouble to doing a life insurance policy, a will for this woman, or if it's a woman to a man, why don't just go get married? That's why. Why? What's the problem?
Because life insurance, you go and you fill out life insurance anyway. You know what I'm saying? You get life insurance from your bank, from your credit union. You get all those policies sent to you anyway. And you gotta write somebody's name down there. So you write her name down there. And having a will, it's just, us as people, as black folk, we don't have wills. You know what I'm saying? That's just the same. That's just kind of a sad fact that needs to be corrected. But when I filled out a will while I was married, and then I had everything going to my wife, going to her. Now, once I died, once we got divorced, I realized I might need to write a new one, So I wrote a new one, So now my little sister hopes somebody knock me off soon. So
but the thing is though, you go through the trouble of filling out a will and insurance policy for somebody that you ain't got no ties to.
No commitment, right?
What's the purpose?
Hey, man.
Get married.
Let's take a second to unpack that, right? Why do we feel like marriage is the only way that you can be committed?
Thank you. That is what the white man has told you.
It ain't the only way that you can be committed, but it's binding document that's saying that, hey, I promise this. You can say you promise something all you want, but if you ain't got them papers, you can change your mind tomorrow.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is there's a whole bunch of people that got those papers that's shacking up with their side piece right now. Right now, as we speak, somebody's side piece is getting knocked down.
Well, they shouldn't have got married then. That's just a bad choice. But nah, there's some benefits to marriage. Not access to like health insurance, things of that nature. There are pros and cons, but that it was made some good points. If you go through all the trouble of years of being together, and this is a general statement. I know for women, they take that getting that ring very serious. So if you haven't given them a ring, in their mind, they thinking you're not really committed to them. So I can't really see them saying, okay, yeah, I've acquired all this stuff. And when I die, I'm gonna just leave it to you just because we was living together. Even though you hadn't committed to say, yeah, I love you enough to marry you, then shoot, why don't I just give that stuff to my mama? She been there for me my whole life. So it's kind of like, why do that, hand it over to somebody that didn't feel strong enough to commit to them in marriage. Not to saying that is not the case, but I'm sure that's how a lot of females feel.
I know a lot of people don't care what other people say and everything, but you really just, if you've been staying with somebody for 10 years and you ain't married yet, people gonna be talking like, oh, what are you doing? You know what I mean? But
Right.
to each his own. Some people don't care, but some people, get about that too.
All right, so I just want to give everybody a chance to kind of close out and some final thoughts on today's topic, starting with Sly.
Hey, man, if you're going to move in together, make sure you're ready to move in together. Make sure both of y'all sit down and talk to each other and work everything out. But, hey, I encourage it. Ain't nobody ever brought a car without test driving it first. So that's my advice for you.
All right, Chance.
I'm always I kind of think of things outside the spectrum sometimes. So it's always multiple ways anything can get done. More than one way to skin a cat is kind of what they say, So I mean, cohabitation can work. It can not work. Moving in as soon as you get married can work. I mean, in different countries they got arranged marriages. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Coming to America, you had the girl hopping on one leg, doing whatever you wanted her to do. But he didn't want that, So but there's some people like, yeah, shoot, I got me somebody who's just gonna do everything I say, and I'll take it. But it's always different sides to everything. That's my deal.
All right, Tom.
So I look at it pretty much the same way Sly look at it. Nobody's been to a car lot before without test. Nobody gets a car without test driving it. And then you got to look at another thing. What somebody said earlier is always about communication. If you can communicate with your person that you're cohabitating with, make things work, have a plan to get to your next level of life, it can work. Like I said, I can only go off what my personal experience of cohabitating, and it worked. We found out a lot about each other, found out about the good and the bad. We saw everything. When you don't stay with somebody, you don't see everything. You can't. There's no way to see everything 24 hours. And then another thing, feel like we cohabitating right now during the quarantine because we together so much right now. It's stuff that we forgot that we didn't like and stuff that we forgot that we did like. It just so it helps you out going forward. But I can't knock the people who don't want to do it and they stick to their guns and say, I'm not going to move in with somebody until I'm married. I understand that. I can't knock that. That's your opinion, but my preference is to make sure you know what you're getting into before you do it.
Last but not least, we're gonna add a little seasoning to this conversation with the Salt Man.
You know it. So I'll try to keep it short, but I grew up in kind of that traditional idea of not shacking up, wait till you're married. But for cohabitation, there's pros and cons. For marriage, wait till you're married to move in. There's pros and cons. The biggest thing I think you should keep in mind, kind of similar to what Sly said, if you do consider, cohabitating in whatever manner, just make sure that you've been in that relationship long enough to consider it serious. Y'all have that communication beforehand. You step through the door, and just keep communication open. And different strokes for different folks, man. It works for either way, cohabitation or wait till marriage. It's just all about the situation, and go from there. That's it.
All right, my final thoughts on the subject is you've heard a diversity of opinions that support cohabitation. My thoughts are pressure burst pipes. You have the opportunity to really see what a relationship's about when a relationship gets challenged under adverse conditions that sometimes you don't necessarily encounter when you're living apart. So that's my support for cohabitation. Obviously, it's a personal choice, but something that we should consider. I mean, when we think about it cross-culturally, other countries have adopted cohabitation kind of as a rite of passage en route to marriage, whereas in the United States, we tend to be a little bit more resistant. So just something for you guys to consider. I'm pretty sure there's multiple thoughts that you may have had regarding cohabitation, or maybe it's something else that you want to hear the RIP 28 podcast talk about. So feel free to follow us on all your streaming platforms. On behalf of the distinguished panel, my name is TB, and we look forward to seeing you at the next time. Later.
I'll let you, boy.
Peace out.